I look at my odometer this morning, I say, wow, 25,000 miles, time to do this 25,000 mile review. I get inside, turn it on, check engine light. So you gotta be kidding me. I had all these awesome things that I was about to say about the car, and I think it's gonna be split down about 50-50 just because it attempted to ruin the start of my vacation. So I guess let's go ahead and start off with the most obvious, what the check engine light was on all about. I turn on the car, the check engine light's on, the traction control light's blinking, the hill assist light, the ABS light's on. I mean, everything looked like a freaking Christmas tree in here. So of course I turn the car off, I go online, check to see what's happening, and you know, I came down to one of two conclusions, which was either brake switch sensor, which I don't know, you know, you would think the brake lights would be going out, but mine were pretty good. So I tested it out, brake lights were working, and then somebody said like oil meter sensor or something along those lines. I really haven't researched too much into it. That's just what I got preliminarily. So I sit inside, I grab my OBD2 little diagnostic tool, stick it in. It just won't work. I don't know if if I fried it or whatnot, but here it is right here. It's not working. So that's just great. So I said, this thing is not going to ruin my vacation right now. About to go, let me check the oil. Everything looks good. Nothing looked like it was unplugged. So I just decided to disconnect the battery terminal, plug it back in. The lights are gone, and we're driving right now. So I will let you guys know, I guess during this review, if the check engine light comes on. I'm kind of sticking close to my house just in case something does go wrong, that I can kind of jet towards there. And the Subaru dealership is, you know, a couple miles from my house, of course. So I guess not a great way to start a review, but I mean, it's honest. This is what I'm experiencing right now. Yesterday, my water heater went out, got that repaired, and today the check engine light. So, you know, when it rains, it pours, of course. But like I said, neither one of those things are going to ruin my vacation, so here we are. So I guess let's start from the front. Since we're already talking about the engine and check engine light and everything like that, the car still burns oil. And by the way, the first few are going to be negatives now, and then I'll try to transition it towards the positives. But the car does burn oil, and I do constantly have to keep adding it. But over the last month or so, it hasn't been as bad as before. And honestly, I don't know what's changed. The only thing that I can tell you is it got hotter outside. So if that makes any sense whatsoever, if it's hotter, maybe it burns less oil. I don't know. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, there were times my driving style has stayed completely consistent. Every once in a while, you know, I get on it, but for the most part, I mean, I drive it like I do right now, just nice and normal. With that said, I've already picked out the air oil separator. I just have to finally order it. Usually takes me a couple of weeks to make up my mind. But once I do, it's gonna be here, and I'll be installing it. And like everybody says, you know, hopefully that fixes the issue. It seems like it's fixing the issue for everybody, so hopefully it does the same thing for me. Also, kind of sticking with the front of the car, the cheap Subaru paint is finally starting to show. So I guess this pandemic has just caused everybody to kind of neglect everything. I mean, I don't know if it's just me or the area that I'm in, but it seems like before, the street sweeper, the cleanup crews were out here constantly cleaning up the roads. It just seems like there's a lot more debris on the road. I mean, I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I got peppered a couple of times with just rocks, and guess what happened the other day? Same exact thing. I think it was actually the day before yesterday. I'm just driving, and all of a sudden, the car just runs over some metal plate. There's just rocks all around it. And of course, you know, even though I was maybe 4 or 5 car lengths behind them, the rocks were still up in the air, and it just completely covered my entire front of the car. Also, just from washing it, it is a black car, so there's going to be swirl marks all over the place. And even when I bought it, it had swirl marks everywhere. So I did finally buff the entire car. It looks great, with the exception of all those rock chips that are just everywhere now. I know I can't mention this enough, but the next one has to do with the rattling, and it rattled like crazy. First 20,000 miles, I mean, surprisingly, it really wasn't rattling that much. I mean, my God, as soon as I hit 20,000 miles, it started just going berserk. I almost felt like an employee that waits till their 3-month mark to quit. And it's like the first 3 months, they're the model employee, and then right after 3 months, it's like, boom, here we go, about to quit, time to become this just disastrous employee working for a company, trying to get myself fired. this is what I felt like this car started doing at 20,000 miles. It's almost like, hey, you know, you've owned the car for about a year now. It's time to get an upgrade. I mean, come on, I'm about to start rattling. Let this be somebody else's problem. You go get yourself another one. Trade it in. Yeah, you're only going to lose a few $1,000s on the trade-in. Who cares, right? That's what I felt like the car was telling me. But I wasn't about to give up that easily. So you've seen the videos most likely. Got to work, stripped the car from the inside completely, fixed all the rattling, or at least I thought. I jinxed myself the other day by saying, oh, you know, all the rattling's gone when I did my little soundproofing review. Well, it's not. It's still rattling, and it's up front now, and I think I've found a couple of different culprits. Definitely the front plastic pillars, and even like the middle portion of the dash right here, this trim piece, I feel like I can hear it rattling. So most people don't even notice this kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of the times I kind of like to drive the car without any kind of music on or anything along those lines, not even radio playing, just nice and in tune with my exhaust. Just trying to relax. My meditation time, I guess you could call it. And I know a lot of people, they listen to music, but the speakers in this car are just garbage. Then I'm gonna have to be upgrading pretty soon. And guess what? I picked out some speakers as well, so I will be ordering those very soon, especially because I have to take off a couple of the door trims anyways. The way that I insulated the doors, I put the insulation a little bit too close to the cables that lead to the handles. So it feels like it's getting a little stuck when I'm opening it up. So I have to repair that anyways. And I guess during that time, I'll be probably installing some new speakers. I guess the last negative thing that I'm going to try to transition into a positive thing is the roof rack. So with the roof rack, that was on my must-have list. I need it, if I'm not going to have a truck, then I needed to have the capability of driving my kayaks around, my bike around. I go kayaking, biking almost every single week. So roof rack was definitely very important to me. But the problem with the roof rack is once you start driving on the freeway, especially when you start hitting, you know, 65 plus miles an hour, the wind is hitting, I guess, all the areas, and it's kind of uneven. I mean, it can't flow properly over it or under it, so it just causes a lot of wind noise. You just hear just constant, just kind of switching around. So I did pick out a deflector that I'm going to be probably buying, but those suckers are so freaking expensive for no reason, for a piece of plastic. Then, honestly, I thought about just building it myself, but I don't know. I'm probably going to buy it, to be honest, and just call it a day. But the roof rack definitely serves its purpose. It's been serving its purpose. I've had it for almost since the day I bought the car. I kind of put that on there. It was the same roof rack that I had on my WRX, so I just transitioned it over into my STi, and everything fits properly. Like I said, this year, still going biking, going kayaking. Pretty easy, just slap it on there, and I'm out. And the car just looks awesome, having something up on the roof. It was almost like it was designed to be carrying something always on top. Handling-wise, still handles like the first day that I got it. I mean, I feel like I'm getting better as a driver, so I'm probably getting finally accustomed to the vehicle's full potential and being able to push the handling kind of close to its limits. I mean, I still don't know. I mean, honestly, I haven't taken the car to the track, so I wouldn't know what its full potential is. I'm not gonna be driving like a crazy person all the time on the streets. But, when you're getting off that corner, like when you're getting off the freeway and there's that big 360 bend, you kind of explore to see how fast you can go through there. And I gotta say, I mean, every single time it kind of surprises me. I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's going that fast. So the handling is still there. I mean, suspension, shocks, everything. I mean, they're still stock, and there's absolutely no issues that I can tell. Transmission, also same thing. You would think it get a little loose or something like that around the shifter. I mean, I do have the short shifter, the stock short shifter that comes with the car optionally. And honestly, I mean, it's still nice and firm, but yet smooth at the same time. It's not like the short shifters in my Corvette where, you just feel like you're just muscling it into gear. The short shifter definitely has that stock feeling and is firm enough. I think I'm going to have to do a separate video on just the brake system in this car. I'm completely in love with anything and everything Brembo right now, with the exception of the Brembo brake pads. I know it serves a purpose, most likely, but goodness gracious, the amount of dust that those things generate. You have to detail clean your wheels every single week, or it's just gonna completely ruin the finish. For a couple of days after I finish cleaning them, the wheels look great, and then right after that, the wheels look completely matte black or matte gray. I mean, it completely covers them. The rear aren't as bad, but the fronts, my God. Those things, I think as soon as I get ready to change the brake pads, even though it's really not necessary right now, I haven't noticed any kind of degradation and performance whatsoever. But as soon as I'm ready, and probably honestly even sooner, I'm going to be swapping these things out with some brake pads that don't generate quite as much dust. The rumble, hands down, just can't get enough of it. I mean, after 25,000 miles, or not really 20, maybe 24,000, because I waited about 1,000 for that braking period before I put the exhaust on. I've had this system on, and I just can't get enough of it. I haven't really heard a full catback nameless system in person, but the one that I have is a Remark catback system, and it's just completely exceeded all of my expectations. There was some drone that kind of developed over time at certain like RPM ranges, but as soon as I finished all the insulation because of the rattling, the drone has been completely eliminated. And you get that. And finally we get to the overall fun factor of the car, and it's fun. I mean, it's only been about a year and a couple of months, and I've already put on 25,000 miles. I actually just did my oil change at 24,000 miles. And yes, I do my own oil changes. I took it to the dealership a couple of times, and every single time I inspected it afterwards, it seemed like, you know, about a week in, right around the cap, it starts forming a little bit of oil, and so I kind of decided, you know what, it's time that I just start changing my own oil, because nobody's going to take care of your car like you are. But we've been driving around, you know, my work's not that far away from my house, and I'm putting on all these miles just going back and forth to work. We drive around every single week. I would say, you know, my son, my wife, and I, we probably put on, at the very bare minimum, 150 miles, probably closer to 300 miles, especially during this time. I mean, what else are we supposed to do? So after we grab our drinks, we just go through. We usually have a trip that we like normally to do, and I'll throw in a few extra little visits. Sometimes Harrison, he wants to go towards the city, so we'll head down to Atlanta. Other times, he just kind of wants to stick around our area, and he just says, I want to stick around on my roads. But regardless of where we're going, it's always fun riding around in the STi. And one more thing, check engine light never came back on. So maybe it was just a gas cap. I did release some pressure from it right before I left, so hopefully that's it. I'll let you know if it comes back on, trust me.